A lot of homeowners who've been thinking about selling lately have been wondering the same thing. Are buyers actually still out there right now? And that's a fair thing to wonder about because even though interest rates and market conditions move around, affordability remains a real challenge for a lot of buyers today. And when the broader economic picture feels uncertain, buyers naturally take a little more time to think through their decisions. But what I'm seeing here in Clark and Cowlitz counties is that buyers are still very much participating in the market. What has changed is the way those deals are coming together. Many homeowners assume that if negotiations are happening, it must mean the price is getting reduced. And for a long time, that really was the most common lever in a slower market. Today, though, many negotiations aren't happening just around the price. They're happening around the terms of the agreement. And the reason for that shift really comes down to how buyers think about affordability right now. Most buyers today aren't looking at a home strictly through the lens of the purchase price. What they're really focused on are two things: the monthly payment and how much cash they'll need to bring to the closing table. With interest rates higher than they were a few years ago, those two numbers suddenly become much more important in the decision-making process. So instead of focusing only on the sales price, more and more often, buyers and sellers are using additional tools that help bring the transaction together. For example, sometimes a seller will contribute toward the buyer's closing costs. That can lower the amount of cash the buyer needs to bring in up front. Another approach you'll occasionally see is something called a temporary mortgage rate buydown. In that situation, funds are used to lower the buyer's interest rate during the first few years of the loan. That helps reduce the monthly payment during the early stages of home ownership. Repair credits are another practical example. Rather than completing repairs before closing, a seller may offer a credit so the buyer can take care of those items after they take ownership of the home. Here's the thing though, the final sales price posted on real estate websites doesn't reflect any of that. All you see is the number the home sold for. But being involved in negotiations week in and week out, I can tell you there are often several thoughtful adjustments happening behind the scenes that help both sides reach an agreement. And that's really the key idea here. Negotiation hasn't disappeared from today's market. It's simply shifted from focusing on price alone to focusing on how the transaction is structured. In many cases, a relatively small adjustment in terms can solve the financing challenge a buyer is facing while still preserving the overall value of the sale for the seller. So if you're a homeowner wondering whether buyers are still active right now, the answer is yes. Deals are still getting done. They're just coming together through thoughtful negotiation and flexible terms rather than relying only on price adjustments. If you found this helpful, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss next week's update. And if you'd like to dig deeper, the full breakdown is in this week's Market Pulse Weekly blog. You'll find a link in the description below. See you next week.